5th of August 1946. Many people were going about the house that night, Flora Parker noted. Many of the family, but also the staff, her father for one, bringing up 2 chairs, with the help of Larry, the doctor following not long afterwards. Do you think she did it on purpose? Flora asked her mother. Daisy, who was bent over trays of tea, raised her head slowly, as if weighed down with the strain of the day. What, get shot? She asked her daughter. For Daisy had seen the whole thing, and she could not help but think that as well. Because she knew she wouldn't live, she would die because of what she did in the war, Flora added, in a parroty kind of way. And where did you hear that, miss? The fairies? Daisy asked her daughter, sharply, pushing her away as Flora made to furnish the tea trays with the sugar bowls and milk jugs. Ernest, she told Daisy. Ernest told me she was dying. He's awfully brave about it. He is, Larry assured his mother. I heard him tell Flora last night. Daisy Parker straightened up, glaring at the twins. Hands automatically to hips, she narrowed her eyes. How long has this been going on? She demanded. It's all right, Flora declared to her mother. Larry's been with us, each time. What are you telling me? Daisy asked, looking out of the doorway and into the passage for a glimpse of her husband. Though he was soft in most things, he did know how to correct the children, and God knew she needed his cool head tonight. But he was not there, and Daisy listened agog as her offspring told her that Ernest and Flora had not lost their attachment to one another, and to keep it correct, Larry had agreed to be there when they met, the whole time. Is this true? Daisy asked of her son. You've chap-upped your sister? I have, Larry told his mother, a little shyly, because he could not anticipate where she was going with this. But he had said it in such a heartfelt way that Daisy did not have it in her that night to scold either of them. But, do you think she did? Flora persisted, eyeing Anna as she came to help Daisy with the tea. Downton's housekeeper glanced to their kitchen maid, and softened her hard countenance and placed sorrowful eyes on Daisy. She must have been through a lot. She can barely walk, barely breathe. Something is seriously wrong. Cancer, Flora told them, and the look in Larry's eyes told Daisy it was not a surprise to him. Ernest told you? Flora nodded. Cancer, Daisy repeated, and tears filled her eyes. Milo was younger than her. Daisy was pushing 50. Milo could only be about 40, but she looked like an old woman. And there was a cry from upstairs, and a door banging. Sibby, a voice shouted, calling out in the darkness. He kept saying he was going to prove he was no sunny traitor. Miss Sibby's voice came down in the darkness. I never thought he had. And then there was a wail and a sob, and fast footsteps on the stairs. We should get these up, said Anna, taking charge. Mr. Barrow will not be joining us tonight. Anna took a tray, and Flora another. Daisy looked across at the late supper that was still to go up. She had nowhere near started on it. A door clicked behind her. Daisy looked up, and ran to Mrs. Patmore, who was standing in the doorway. We heard what had happened, Mrs. Patmore, now Mrs. Mason, rightly, told Daisy. So I said to Mr. Mason, I said, Daisy's gonna need some help. She gasped as Daisy hugged her around the waist. We came too, another voice greeted them. I said to Mrs. Hughes, came the stentorian voice of Mr. Carson, a butler down? Someone with some sense is needed. So I came, did I not, Charlie? Elsie Hughes told her husband. Mr. Carson tried to hide his amusement at his wife's comment, and failed. But then, as the gravity of the evening fell, as people came and went, the old staff slotted into their old roles. Around midnight Ernest came down to the servants' dining room and sat in one of the chairs. He looked terrible. Daisy, who had followed him, she saw him playing with something in his hands. My mother left it when I was adopted, Ernest told Daisy, when she sat beside him. He held up Milo's wedding ring, and then put it on the table in front of Daisy. Her wedding certificate, my birth certificate, and this. It was her mother's, he added. Daisy looked at the plain band, and remembered the day that Milo and Thomas had returned from Scotland having married. She told me to keep it, Ernest told Daisy. She said. Daisy watched as the boy's face lessened in its strain, like flowers under summer's brightness. I should keep it for when I am married. Daisy put a hand on Ernest's shoulder. He turned her head to her. I am glad I found her, he told Daisy. I am glad I left Germany and came here. 88,888,888. Dr. Connell took George Crawley to one side, as the door closed to Thomas's room. I cannot get the bullet out, he told the current Lord Grantham. Even if I did, she won't last the night. She is too weak. The cancer is too much for her body to stand. You must try. Surely? But Connell shook his head. She has asked me not to. She knows she will die. I have given her a sedative and morphine. She should not feel much with the pain. 88,888,888 and people came or did not come to visit Milo, in the drug-induced hallucinations of her mind. A line of people, as if she were the king and they were her courtiers, who may or may not have physically existed. She was aware Thomas was to her right, and that Ernest was to her left. She squeezed their hands, and she felt a sensation where she approximated her hands to be. They were there. That was good. Little bear, your porridge is just right. He will run. Try to stop him. The shining princess walked over and took his hand, guiding him back. She glittered. Lady Sybil. Beside her, the white princess and black princess stood behind the brilliance. A door opened. Milo was sure that it was there in reality, just over there. Words, people talking. A gasp from someone. Milo opened her eyes and saw the good witch with her husband, the white bear. It was funny, she had not seen the brown bear recently. Good. If he wasn't there, he couldn't eat her. Nor had she seen the old queen. But the new queen had been the ... She had smiled to Milo. Right at the end of the long line of people was the old king, eyes shining, countenance just, Lord Grantham, tall and stately like the king himself. King of Downton Abbey. Have you finished your work now, me Lucina Ashby? He asked, in his kindly manner. Yes, Milo conceded. It's all done, now. 888,888,888 your old fairy stories, Thomas said to Milo, as the night turned into morning. She had opened her eyes and gripped his hand. Ernest had gone to bed, he told her. Alan told me that life was a story, you just had to tell it right. Milo tried to sit up, but a dull ache in her chest was pulling at her strength. One night, I told him about all of my characters. He said, only brilliant people bothered to do that, to make sense of the world. Alan? But when Milo did not answer, Thomas shook his head. It must have been the MN who had brought her up to Manchester from Cambridge. When ... she ... went, he would go back to Manchester, perhaps with Ernest, and find the man, Turing, who had cared for Milo so selflessly. I am sorry you are sad, Milo said, sometime later, noticing his eyes, which were crinkled in a way she knew well. Did I cause it? Be truthful now. Yes, Thomas told her, smoothing the hair from her face. Yes, you did. And the woman became the child again, in front of his eyes, cautious, curious. What did I do now? And if his heart hadn't yet broken, Thomas felt it lurch in his chest. You were very brave, me Lucina. You saved the life of your son. I forget. And Thomas stroked the back of her hand, like he would do when she was most distressed, when she was a child, to calm her. May I remember for you. Milo died in night. Thomas was holding her hand and she was holding his. He must have closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, hers was lying beside her. It was Daisy who found them at dawn, when she brought food up for them both. I am truly sorry to hear she has gone so quickly, Mr. Barrow, Master George told Thomas Barrow, when he descended to speak to the new Lord Grantham. All the arrangements will be made. With Graspys I will collect as many people who knew her for the funeral. It needs to be lead-lined, Thomas told Master George. Whatever for? Thomas shrugged. Lead-lined caskets were for the rich, only. But, Chadwick had said, Chadwick, he began, and then he saw James Chadwick beside the door. I will pay, Thomas insisted, touching his forehead. Despite knowing Milo was dying, He had not expected to feel like this. "I will tell them," Master George assured him. "Someone will pay the bill," he added, "and it will be Frederick Lindman, if I have my way." 88,888,888. "Tell me again why we must all leave Downton?" Marigold asked her cousin that evening. The undertakers had come. Mrs. Patmore, Mrs. Hughes and Mr. Carson were still inhabiting their former roles, in what was a very reassuring manner. "The radioactivity from Miss Ashby's body is so great that it has contaminated wherever she has come in contact," George explained to her, and to Caroline and Peter, who were the only members of the household wishing to spend the evening with George. The television set was well and truly off, but the radio was no comfort, either. "We must leave it, for a time. We can go to London." "Well, how long for?" demanded Caroline. "I was just getting organized with my antiques business in York. I can't very well do that in London." "Well, get a flat then," Cousin Peter told her. "I can come and live with you. I need to be close to base." "How long?" Marigold asked. "I think it is called a half-life," Master George told them. "We have to leave it for half our lives?" Marigold pulled a face. "No," replied her brother. "Yes, I mean, the radioactivity causes ... problems ... like the after effects of the Hiroshima bomb." "You mean she's been to Japan?" Marigold put down her teacup. "Honestly, Marigold, when will you just listen?" "You're being rather dense," her brother scolded. "And you're being rather rude. What will your father say?" his sister retorted. "Now then," said Peacemaker George, "it is only temporary. Dr. Thompson will tell us in due course. Miss Ashby will be buried at St. Michael's. She once did work there." "I will stay with her. I want to," Thomas asserted. "Have a care, Mr. Barrow, you may get sick yourself," Master George told him. But Thomas shrugged. "I will anyway," he told him. "I was there when she first came here. Did you know? She was 4.5. She saved my life, many times over. I do not want her to be frightened." In the end, Ernest stayed too. It was called Awake, alien to Thomas and Ernest, but Milo was Irish, after all. It was probably not in her culture, but two of her Jameson aunts, Jessica and Charlotte, came up to sit with her, shunning the idea that there was any danger at all. "In the spit heat of the Jamesons that have come before her," Thomas Barrow said to his son, pun intended. Ernest asked his father, as they sat together, outside his room, on the upper floor of Downton Abbey, door propped open as the two women watched over her. "No," he told his son, and looked upon the face of his wife, little Milo, to whom all the world confused and delighted, in equal measure. "Not at all.